Hello everyone, and welcome back to today's analysis. Now, the analysis for the 180th episode will be focused on Jeremiah Valeska, one of the main antagonists of Gotham. Valeska, in my opinion, has come the best and the closest to actually become the Joker. Jeremiah, contrary to his brother, represents kind of a new nuance of the Joker character, in the sense that instead of strength, Jeremiah focuses mostly on intelligence. And I once again give my compliments to Cameron Morgan for another great portrayal of the character. Given the fact that I have portrayed and analyzed already Jerome 4 episodes ago, and now for this episode we are going to discuss about Jeremiah and all the information we have about him throughout the series, to understand him and how close he came to be the Crown Prince of Crime. And now, let's begin. Jeremiah Valeska's backstory is pretty nearly identical to that of Jerome, being born in Gotham in 1981 and being raised at a circus and sadly being abused, or in his own case, neglected by their mother. As is implied here that Jeremiah might have spread lies about Jerome while they were younger, in the sense they even claimed once that Jerome tried to kill him, which might have only worsened his abuse. And it's possibly that he might have been their mother's favorite, and thus he might have not been as abused as Jerome, but rather at mostly neglectful. And just like Jerome, he never knew who his biological father really is, as it's revealed later on that the circus owner was his and Jerome's father. And now by 1999, as Jeremiah has left for college, Jerome officially snapped and killed their mother and became a diabolical and deranged criminal. And by the year 2000, he has found himself now a victim of his own brother's schemes, alongside with both Jim Gordon and with Bruce Wayne, which Jeremiah has come to actually like and form somewhat of a friendship and deep bond with, as he has with Bruce the same bond that he never got to have with Jerome. But sadly, he have many attempts on his life because of his brother, and even been kidnapped and tried to be killed by him in the process. But thankfully, Jerome has been stopped, and he died for a second and final time, and his reign of madness came to an end. But sadly, he will play one last trick on Jeremiah, in the sense that in his last moments, he has sent to Jeremiah a gift, a laughing jack in a box filled with laughing gas that ultimately infected Jeremiah and caused him to go insane. And thus Jeremiah has become the Joker of the Gotham series, or his brother's successor. And just like Jerome, Jeremiah will now seek to cause chaos and mayhem throughout Gotham. But unlike Jerome, who wanted to prove a point, Jeremiah seeks to destroy Gotham City and rebuild it into his image, as well as to drive Bruce Wayne insane so both of them can become best friends into insanity. But thankfully, he will officially fail, and he will also fall into a vat of chemicals that will ultimately mutilate and damage him beyond repair. And he will be arrested and put into the Arkham Asylum, where he will spend the next 10 years out there pretending to be brain dead, all the while waiting for an opportunity to arise again, waiting for Bruce and Jim to eventually come after him. And now, by the year 2010, an opportunity arrived in the form of Batman. As the news of this Batman began to appear throughout Gotham, Jeremiah officially decided to escape from Arkham and he returned back to the factory where it all began and going to lure Bruce and Jim out there in order to take his revenge. And now, before we will continue, we will now stop and ask ourselves: is Jeremiah evil? And while the reason I'm explaining this is because, unlike Jerome, who became evil by his own choice, Jeremiah could be viewed kind of brainwashed to a certain degree, in the sense that it's the laughing gas that Jerome gave it to him that ultimately drove him insane. And thus, Jeremiah is not evil by his own will, and might have complete moral agency issues to begin with. In tandem with the fact that he too has a tragic backstory, given the fact that he was abused or at best neglected by his mother and had a horrible relationship with Jerome, it meant that Jerome literally tried to kill him and even later brainwashed him to become like him. Thus, all of this makes Jeremiah kind of similar with the Joker from the Killing Joke, a villain by proxy. However, it should be noted here that when he fell into the vat of chemicals at the end of the series, and God disfigured, he retained complete moral agencies at the end, and he acknowledges his crimes and feels no remorse whatsoever. Not to mention that Jeremiah, even though with a tragic backstory, does not justify all his horrible crimes. Similarly, Jerome, and especially for the fact that in many ways he could be even worse, could be viewed worse than his brother, as Jerome at best was a simple psychopath, a sadist, and just wanted to prove a point. Jeremiah seeks just to destroy and rebuild everything from the start, and pretty much wants to corrupt Bruce Wayne and anybody else, and as proving that the answer ultimately is yes. Jeremiah is evil, and just like Jerome, he too can count as pure evil, and he's not a villain by proxy, and he's completely aware of the morality of his actions. And now, by circa around 2010, Jeremiah escaped from Arkham and lured Jim Gordon by kidnapping an innocent girl back at the factory when they all last met. But at the end, Batman showed up and managed to stop him, and in his last moments, Jeremiah recognized him that he is Bruce, and thus his reign of terror came to an end once and for all. So in the end, who was Jeremiah Valeska? He was nothing more but a diabolical psychopath who only wanted not just to spread chaos, madness, and death for his own benefit. A monster willing to do anything and sacrifice and destroy anything in order to rebuild it back into his own twisted image. And a monster that could easily be called as one of the most diabolical villains ever made in television. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe, and have a nice day.
Well, that is disappointing.